Do you have a trust set up? Do you have, different documents that outline what you want done in the event of you're incapacitated? So we sit and talk with that, but I think the big thing that people talk about is the finances.
Exactly.
What can we afford? A big misconception is that the government's going to take care of you. Medicare is going to pay for it, and they don't. A lot of it is private pay.
The opinions expressed in the following program are those of the producer and not necessarily those of WKTV Community Media.
Hello, West Michigan. This is Grand Tap Media Business TV. My name is Pamela Keim, your host. The spirit of the show is to introduce West Michigan to all the businesses, nonprofits, individuals that can help us thrive in our lives. Do you have an aging parent, maybe a grandmother, even an aunt that you're taking care of? Maybe something happened and they came home from the hospital and you realize the care it takes, or you're starting to look at your aging parents and they're making decisions that where they're going to spend their next season. Well, I have a wonderful guest for you today that's going to be talking about how he can help, or his business can help you make those decisions, maneuver through the system, which is completely can overwhelm you. Believe me, I was in the Aging Network for 17 years and I receive calls all the time as people are like, I just don't know what to do. I have to take care of my aging parents. So I want to welcome Nick Wake to the show from, gosh, I got to think about that now. I went blank. You are
CarePatrol of Western Michigan.
Okay, thank you. I told you to be prepared for that because I do everything from memory. All right, Nick. It's a growing age group that has come upon us kind of really quickly. I've been in the Aging Network, like I mentioned, I told you, 17 years. We knew this was coming. And I had to deal with people through a client services department I ran, is all the children of aging parents and grandparents find themselves, or even an aunt that's a widow that you're taking care of them. And they come home or they're starting to signs that they cannot live alone. And they're like, where can I go? Because they start pricing it out and they're completely overwhelmed. So please share with West Michigan who you are, how you got into this, and how you can help people that are dealing with the situation.
Well, and I appreciate you having us on. And, anytime we get a chance to talk about this industry, we are very, very open and very passionate about it.
We are, because it's our loved ones.
Well, and, having had the similar experience with my grandmother and my grandfather, we know it's really important. So at CarePatrol of Western Michigan, what we do is we help families find independent living, assisted living, memory care, in-home care. Sometimes we also help with a respite stay. So if you're the caregiver for a parent and you just want to go on vacation, you've got a graduation out of state, something along those lines, we can help coordinate that short-term stay. And what really sets us apart is that we will sit down, we'll meet with the families, we're going to do what we call a care assessment. So when you call us or somebody in your family calls us, we're going to set up a time, we're going to sit down, we're going to talk with those families to determine what's really important to them. I mean, aside from the obvious physical stuff, we need to make sure that obviously any ADL's, activities of daily living, are identified. But we also want to look at the financial piece to make sure that when we're talking about communities, they're going to be in your price range. And then finally, and this is really important that I think a lot of folks overlook, is what's going to be the best feeling there? What's going to make it feel like home? I mean, does mom like to garden? We're going to sit there and really establish that and say, all right, well, let's look for places that have gardens in your price range, if possible.
Right.
But then, I'm not a gardener. I mean, if you see my lawn, you know that I'm not a big gardener. But I love to read, so a library would be important for me.
Correct.
And so we're going to sit down, we're going to determine those out, and then we're going to set up the tours. So we're not just going to give you a list and make you call. We're going to actually sit and be that agent for you, kind of like a realtor. I think everybody's bought a house, they've sold a house.
Well, your realtor will sit down with you. What are you looking for? What schools you're looking for? What kind of community? Okay, so CarePatrol. All right, so share with us, did you have to experience it yourself? I know your background, you've worked in Michigan and the legislation, you were a staffer. Did you see a problem? Did you see people coming to you? It's like, yeah, I'm worried about my roads, but let me tell you that my mom now is living with us. What am I going to do with her, Nick? And how am I going to take care of her? I got to go to work.
Yep, and we had that too. In fact, one of the booklets we put out in the office I worked at was called Planning for Peace of Mind, and it was putting together, lists and things like that. And so at the same time, my mother had just changed careers and had discovered this franchise opportunity for CarePatrol. So she opened up our office. That was about 10 years ago. And so it was really interesting having that conversation because we were watching my grandparents age on both sides of the family. And there was really this identified need. I mean, if the state's putting out a booklet on it, you know, there's a little bit of issue there. And, you know, there's so many programs, there's so much bureaucracy on some ends, it's just very labyrinthine. Assisted living doesn't necessarily mean the same between communities, and so there really was a need that she identified, and that we really, as we started digging into it, it was just amazing. The sheer complexity and just the sheer gratitude people get when they have that roadmap.
Well, in my industry, you know, as soon as they came home from the hospital, that usually involved us, and then people would go home. And then the care started coming in, you know, the rehab or all the other things that everyday life, like maybe even a housekeeper, whatever. Well, what would happen is eventually the families like my mom and dad are just overwhelmed by everything coming in, which you know that they need. But when you sit down with families, it's like, look, maybe they come in once a week and not every other day. My mom and dad can't, because they do have anxiety of people coming, but they have to recover from surgery. They have to get rehab, and life goes on. And as children, you still have to function. Some of us have families. They have to deal with it. So do they sit down and they call you in? Like, do you visit them at the hospital? How does this process work? I know you said you go over it, but I call up Nick when I win. Yeah,
well, pretty much whenever. I mean, the sooner you start, the better off you're going to be. Like anything in life, especially bigger purchases, which this is going to be one of those big expenses in your life. You really want to plan ahead. So, but I say that we've worked with somebody for 4 years.
Preparing for the aging?
Preparing, looking. It wasn't urgent, but she was looking for independent living. And as we worked through the process, she waited a little bit too long. So now we're looking at assisted living. But we also have been able to make placements in as short as 2 hours. My team gets a little bit upset when we talk about that, but the team is made up of medical professionals from the industry. We have 2 people in the field that ran communities or were within home health care or both. We have a licensed PTA on staff who is out working with people, and we have someone who worked at EMS and worked for a local ambulance service here. So, I mean, we have that breadth of knowledge where we can come into a situation, make judgments that someone that might not have been in that healthcare arena beforehand, and really make those snap decisions. So when we're in the hospital, you have an admission, maybe you had to slip and fall, you're in the emergency room.
Or hip injury, that's usually the one that takes a lot of people out.
Well, and right now too, you're gonna see a lot of, with snow, you know, it's a lovely snowy day out today, you're gonna have people out shoveling, and sometimes you get people that have undiagnosed heart conditions, they have problems. You just have these things, and so they're in the hospital or they have to go to rehab, and what's the next step? Are they safe in their home? Do they need a little bit extra help? All right, well, we can bring one of our team members in, assess, and say, you know what, in-home care is probably appropriate for you.
Right.
If we don't think so, we'll let them know, hey, I know you want in-home, we're going to look at in-home, but have you thought about assisted living? We don't push, we're never going to be pushy, but we're going to say, look, you know, looking at your situation, is this an option you'd be open to?
Now, what we're dealing too, and I told you I'm in different seasons now that my husband is retired. You know, I'm thinking not that far ahead, but I'm thinking, okay, things have to be changed. The estate has to be changed. Things, you understand that, right? A whole different season of our lives, and we're starting to look at our home and saying, okay, we could, if anything would go wrong, if you don't want, we could live on one level. I mean, there's a lot of people that are in situations where you walk in, it's like, you know, if you come home from surgery, you're not going to be able to maneuver. And, you know, what are most children, when they say, I would say children, but family members that are taking care of their loved ones, I mean, what are they asking? Are they asking, what is our state pretty good with aging? Is there services that people aren't, you know, taking advantage of that are set up?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, what are you finding as you're talking to people like me that was taken care of?
And like, especially with the children, and the generation that is coming of age that is looking at these assisted livings, they're very private people when it comes to finances, and maybe they haven't had those discussions. So
right.
I mean, the key thing that we try to do, let's get it all on the table. Who's your DPOA, your you know, durable power of attorney? Who is going to be your agent? Do you have a trust set up? Do you have, you know, a different documents that outline what you want done? in the event of you're incapacitated. So we sit and talk with that, but I think the big thing that people talk about is the finances.
Exactly.
What can we afford? A big misconception is that the government's going to take care of you. Medicare is going to pay for it, and they don't. A lot of it is private pay. If you reach a certain threshold, as far as not having a lot of assets, we know of several programs that can help you out. So if you're a veteran, we can talk to the VA and take a look at VA aid and attendance. If you're not, but you have a certain, you're at a certain asset level, we can talk about the Medicaid waiver program, which will help take care of care inside an independent living and help offset the costs, or an assisted living, and offset those costs.
Let's talk Medicaid waiver. That's huge in that, because you don't have to be a certain age to even receive that. But basically, is it still, as I remember, you had to be nursing home at risk? How is it working now?
It really depends on your care level. Really, it does look at, are you going to meet the criteria for assisted living? Are you going to take advantage of it? If you don't have a high enough acuity, you're just, your income level is low, but otherwise you're very independent, it's probably not going to be an option. If you're making over, $2,700, $2,800 a month, it's going to be out of your option. But do you need help with medication? Do you have mobility challenges? Do you have other issues that are going to hinder your ability to live independently? That's what weighs into it. So yeah, to your point too, it really does require that higher level of care.
So it's still 20, it's just 2,800?
Just shy of that 27.
Okay, and is not, there's a large, I guess a growing population that are coming of age. They have more assets than that now, right? I mean, it's like that seems really small compared to what I hear other people talking about their income.
Yep, and there's a lot of, we can find communities. I mean, we have just a breadth of community partners who we work with, just in a lot of options on the table. Our team are in and out of them every day. We really do spend a lot of time researching these facilities, but really, it isn't that much in the grand scheme of things. There are plenty of communities out there, but they are going to take care of your care. There aren't necessarily some of the, maybe they have a little garden in the back, but they're not going to have the massive amount of activities. They're going to be smaller adult foster care homes or other smaller type settings, which, I mean, there are a lot of really nice ones out there that are roughly
Are they popping up more? The group is like, well, you used to call them a group home.
Yep.
And instead of going into a nursing facility or assisted living, they did better in some of these homes that were turned into these group homes. Are they growing? I mean, what is the aging housing doing today?
It really does, for those smaller homes, it really is staying kind of even keel. Those that aren't meeting the standards for the state are being shut down. The state's really cracked down on that. Again, which is an amazing thing. We definitely want.
We saw some abuses there.
Yep, we want to make sure that any place we're placing in is going to be a nice place or a good place to live. But the state's shutting down those that are just not meeting that criteria. But then there are other new ones that are opening up. We just had a couple that I know of that are looking into opening up here fairly soon, little 6 and 12 bed homes. So.
In Kent, or
Grand Rapids area.
Grand Rapids.
Yep,
okay.
Grand Rapids area. So we're very hopeful that they're going to be doing a great job, and just looking at the home, they've done a lot of nice work renovating it, and so yeah, I would say it kind of stays pretty even keel. The ones that drop off, the ones that come up. So
what are you concerned about when it comes to, you've been in this for a while, and of course working for the state, seeing it at a different, in the legislation side of what's coming. I mean, is there anything you're seeing coming? Because I know it's here, and it's just going to explode more in the next 10 years because the baby boomers are really going to be in need of care. Some of them are very healthy, but understand it takes only one fall, hip or whatever, that puts you out. What mostly concerns you, I would say, with what's happening today?
I would say, from a regulatory side, I always worry about regulatory overreach.
Okay.
We want to make sure communities are safe, clean, productive areas for healing, and really working on quality of life for their residents. But at the same time, I know there's always an over tendency to just, if you see one tiny problem, even if it is an isolated incident, for
a quick fix.
Yeah, a talking point, and let's go ahead and let's address the specific situation.
Right.
And yeah, it might fix maybe 5 or 10 people in that, but you're going to also create problems for 100 people down the road, because their circumstances will discount them from that you know, the new program. And so like our biggest thing right now is making sure that whatever the state's doing on a regulatory side is not going to inflate costs for those people that maybe thought the government was going to pay for their care,
Right.
or didn't.
Or really care
Yeah.
that they want to be in, right?
Yeah. Oh,
It's
yeah.
like, that's the difference.
Yeah, and that, you know, making sure they're able to make that safe decision to go into an assisted living versus living on their own too long in an unsafe environment, having a fall, and now they have to go to a skilled nursing facility, and, you know, putting their quality of life at risk. You know, that's my biggest concern. I think we see a little of that. And
Well, I think
granted-
they want to stay, a lot of people want to stay in their homes, right? And I understand that. I would too, to want to do that. But, you know, they need somebody to check up on them. You know, maybe they have a dog that needs to be taken out. There's all these things that you don't think on your daily living, right? That you just do just out of routine. It's like just practice, do this, and all of a sudden you show up at mom's house and, you know, nothing's cleaned.
Yeah.
The dog had an accident, not cleaned up. These are the things that people struggled with, right?
Yeah.
When it comes to their parents staying at home, even though they like them at home.
Well, that's we talk about the sandwich generation. So,
Right.
you know, you've got these people that have aging parents that are in that situation as you described, and they have kids. They're in high school, they're getting ready to graduate, they're in sports, they've got this.
They're running around.
Yeah, and so you've got this pressure on these folks to really take care of it. And so one of the things we like to do, again, we don't want to push anybody to assisted living or any situation that
Right.
isn't appropriate, but we have networks of caregivers. So we work with most of the big in-home care agencies. So
Okay.
Non-medical, medical, nursing, we can usually find something. So if you just need someone to come in and just help with the laundry, that's where we started my grandma at. My grandma didn't like someone coming to the home, so she spent the time cleaning up for the person that was coming in to clean up, but
I get
she was
that.
of that generation.
Yes.
So that definitely helps. You know, and also helps to maintain that quality. Because we all, I think, want to see our parents or grandparents or any loved one really thrive as best they can. And you don't want to put them in a situation that is not appropriate. So if they're safe in the home, or maybe they need a little bit of extra help here and there, we can definitely take care of that. We can help you find that. We can help you really find the company that best meets your needs, both geographic and like medical, non-medical needs, and kind of work through that process. And we've had people where we've helped them find in-home health care, really has taken the strain off of the caregiver, but then also has helped them stay in the home longer, and then they call us and say, all right, I think it's time for assisted living. All right, well, we already have that relationship.
Right.
I already
We'll
know what's
just
going on.
transition you in. And what about the one thing before we go on to how this is all going to work? But what about the people that are like alone, isolated? Maybe their kids don't live in the state, or maybe they live an hour away. What I found that people were lonely, and that deteriorates their health really quickly when they're alone. What services do you have? Like, it's like, look, I just want somebody to maybe watch a movie with mom on Friday night, take her to church, and do these things that she wants to do. Take her to the grocery store, some of the stuff, just to get her out. Maybe do people ask you like to being a companion?
Yep.
For a little bit during the week.
There are several services out there that we work with. Some we don't, but we refer to anyway. You know, they have people that can do that, and we definitely see that there is a need for that. So yeah, running around getting groceries, getting just an aide to come in. The industry standard right now in the area is about 4 hours minimum. Some will do a little bit less, but just coming in, helping around, cleaning, laundry, driving them to the grocery store.
Taking them to church, but just sitting watching a movie with them.
Sitting and chatting with my grandma.
Right.
My grandma felt she was more of a guest in the house than an aide.
Right.
Which we had to have a conversation with her, like, you don't have to clean, that's why they're coming in.
You don't show your value somewhere, right?
Yeah, but sometimes that is all that people need, and we can help connect them with that. And there's plenty of other services that aren't necessarily in our wheelhouse, but we refer out to them and say, hey, look, you know, we don't do this. Our company, this isn't quite to the need of some of these companies we work with, but why don't you give these folks a call, because they do that. They might be able to give you a helping hand on that. And yeah, that loneliness, senior loneliness is almost
huge.
epidemic levels in the state or in the country.
Yeah.
And so that's really something to be cognizant of, especially as people are living longer, they're outliving their friends.
They don't live close to their children, and or their children are really busy with their kids and stuff. So let's just ask you. You know, you say this is now we would like West Michigan. This is a free service that you offer. So then, how do you stay? You know, because you have a nice you have a new place over there, and where I live, by Sunrise Nursing Home, that down the street. You said I used to volunteer there in Cascade. So how do you get paid, and how does, if it's free, what does that mean? Because we all know free is not free unless you're that way. So how does this work?
And we try to stay to no cost to the families is sort of our tagline, because people are skeptical of free.
Yeah.
What we do is we do all this stuff no cost for the families, but we do get compensated on the backside through our network of community providers.
Okay.
So we have a negotiated rate that we get paid out for a one-time fee for a placement. Kind of again, like using the realtor model, they get paid at the sale of the house, we get paid at the placement. However, you know, I've had people ask, well, what's to keep you from placing me in
one of
you know,
those
into the most
facilities,
expensive place ever? You take your fee, you go out, and that's it. And we just don't do that.
Okay.
I mean, from a business standpoint, that's just bad business. If you don't want to hurt a family, because that can come back and bite you. You don't want to burn a referral partner who's referring to you, because you'll get that reputation of, well, I'm not going to send them there because they have bad outcomes. And a community's not going to want to work with you if they've got, you know, high turnover in these rooms. All your placements are lasting until you get paid, and then they're leaving. So we don't do that. And I'd like to say too, in our industry in the area, I can't think of anybody that I know of that works in this area that does that.
Okay.
You know, we're a member of the National Referral and Placement Alliance Michigan chapter, which has strict codes of ethics, which outline what we can and can't do, and we can get into a lot of trouble by not making that proper placement. And our team all are from healthcare backgrounds. People didn't get into healthcare to make a buck. They got in there because they have big hearts. They care. They're passionate about what they do, and they're heavy advocates. And there's a lot of stuff we do that's pro bono. We don't get paid on any Medicaid placement. We still help people get signed up, and we make that placement.
Do you work just if somebody was viewing this, my viewers, just West Michigan, or do you help? I mean, is there a demographic that you do, just so people that are looking are like, okay, that's in my area, I could do that. Is there any restrictions there?
So we're a franchise,
Okay.
but we're part of the largest franchise network in the country. CarePatrol has 170, 180 offices nationwide.
Okay.
In the state of Michigan, we have 8. So if you're not in my territory, our territory is...
You'll refer.
Yep, we refer it out. I can take care of you from Lake Michigan to Lake Huron. And if we don't have an office there, our office has worked out some deals with folks in Traverse City and other areas, so that we can definitely do a warm handoff with people we know will do a good job. But yeah, so we can take care of you. Our line is roughly 131 east to the Kent County border. Then we go into Ionia County, and we go all of Berry County.
Okay.
But yeah, we can get you all the way from the lake
So
shore.
then if
lake
they
shore to
came
lake
to
shore.
you, it's like, okay, that's, because some people don't know, you know,
Yeah.
they just pick up the phone and you're like, oh, you seem like a nice
Yeah.
to talk to. And it's like, okay, well, I'll get you this far, and then we'll just transfer your file over to, you know, Julie or somebody. It's across that one. All right, so before we wrap this up, is there anything that we didn't cover you'd like to, or is there anything as people like me that are dealing, my parents are gone, but I do have friends that are dealing with aging parents, or an aunt that they lost their uncle, and now they're taking care of them. What should they be thinking about before that, where you're going into something like a situation where you have to put them in a house? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Work here.
get your paperwork in order.
Okay.
I think that's the
Which
biggest
looks
thing.
like what?
You know, get your advance directive put together. Get your trust set up if that's the route you want to go down. Make sure you know who's going to be in charge of, you know, who's your DPO. He's going to run your bank account, your health. Make those decisions while you can. And then also, I would say, if you're looking at making that transition, give us a call sooner rather than later. It's a lot easier to have these kind of conversations in a living room than the emergency room.
Yeah, really,
I mean,
it is.
That, you know, so for us, just getting prepared. And if you call us and you say, hey, we're looking down the road, but, you know, do you know of anybody? We have what I call our tier 2 partners, which we just work with them a lot. So we have elder law attorneys, movers.
Oh, good.
A lot of folks that, whereas, you know, we don't necessarily have a referral relationship or a compensation relationship, we still refer to each other because they're good people. We've vetted them, we've worked with them, and we know that they're going to do a quality job and really at an affordable price point.
All right. And when you're planning on all that too, it's always where you might have somebody to handle, maybe you have more than one child. One might be able to handle the estate. Yep. One is maybe your medical advocate. That's what usually I see. It's like, okay, she helps make this. And a lot of people don't want to, when they're going into the hospital, making decisions under stress or when their parents
Yeah.
are in a stressful, you're halfway across the country, you end up making it quickly,
Yeah.
and you may not be the best fit. Does that
Yeah.
make
Yeah,
does that happen?
yeah, and that's, really outlining the plan, making sure you've got the right person where they need to be. But again, a lot of this with the advanced directives and explaining to your kids what you want.
Maybe they don't even know. We haven't really thought about that because sometimes it's a difficult conversation to have.
And we can help facilitate that too.
Okay.
Our team definitely, again, whereas we are more geared toward those in-home care and the community placements, we can definitely help have that conversation of, all right, look, we know you're not comfortable having this, but here are some strategies to do that. And we know of a lot of elder law attorneys or people like that that are able to really facilitate that and do a really good job of, we don't want to talk about finances, but we have to talk about finances because that's going to determine your level of care moving forward.
The hardest thing was, besides finances, before we give them the information, is taking the keys away.
Oh, yeah.
From, they would always ask us, could you go in and do that? It's very difficult because their independents are gone and
Yeah.
they've never, you know what I'm saying? Some of these people has for 70 years. It's like all of a sudden we need to get those keys from Dad. We need to get them. Even though they take right turns everywhere, they're still.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and my poor grandma always complained that we wouldn't let her drive, And so it's like, I looked at her one day, it's like, Grandma, do you think you can drive? Well, yes. All right, I'll get in the car with you and we'll ride. I guess not. So,
That is true.
it's,
Those are good to have you help
Yep.
because sometimes it's like, I can't, they couldn't do it, or they just would be, they're like, I don't want to talk about this.
Yeah.
The parents would. And you're like, we need to talk about
well,
it.
and having, it's an uncomfortable conversation. And nobody wants to parent the parent, right? I mean,
Nobody.
But at a certain point, it just needs, it's a safety conversation because it's not just them on the road. They could get into an accident, they could hurt somebody else, they could really hurt themselves.
Right.
And if they do that and they have an injury that is a long-term injury, they're going to have to look at other alternative, if they get hurt, they break a hip or they get in an accident,
Right.
they have a lot of problems, they may end up in a nursing home, a
Right.
skilled nursing facility.
And you don't want that. And I've had that where friends where their parents did get lost and stuff. All right, Nick, look into that and tell West Michigan how they can reach you.
Can do. We are available via email or phone. You can give us a call at 616-773-2085. Go ahead and email us at westernmi@carepatrol.com. And go ahead and check out our website, which is westernmi.carepatrol.com.
All right. Well, we're going to have you back probably next year, too, because I just know this is a huge field. A lot of people are dealing with it. But I want to thank Nick Wake from Care Patrol for being here. And I appreciate your time. So this is Pamela Keim from Grand Tap Media. We will catch you next time. Take care, everyone.